Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
Welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. But for our radio audience here in Mississippi, joining us at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com, we're glad that you all can be with us. Also, just tuning in through iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcast, we're glad you all could join us as well. We've been talking a lot about history, as you guys have probably seen in the news. History is one of the things that has been a point of contention for some, but also a lot of people realize the importance and the value of preserving history. And one of the things, of course, that has happened in our history is the legacy of an individual that we know well here in Mississippi, and that being Emmett Till. Well, believe it or not, there is a push going on right now to not only be able to make sure that his memory and his story is being told, but also remembered, but also that of his mother as well. Here to talk to us more about that, we're excited to welcome Alan Spears to our broadcast. Alan is the Senior Director of Cultural Resources and Government Affairs at the National Parks Conservation Association. He's going to talk to us not only about the importance of Emmett Till's story, but also how a new national park site would ensure that his murder and the strength of his mother are not forgotten. Alan, thank you again for the time. Really do appreciate you stopping by today.
I'm very glad to be with you. Thank you.
So, Alan, this is something, in fact, we were just had a news story here on the radio side here in Mississippi last week, just talking about the importance of remembering the history of individuals like Emmett Till and also the impact on the country. But I want you to tell us from your standpoint, why is his story so important?
Well, you know, it's not possible to overestimate the significance and the positive impact of President Joe Biden's decision to designate a new national monument commemorating Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley. This is a story that should never have happened, but it did occur, and as such, it's a part of our shared national narrative, and all of us need to know about. So the president's action takes us several steps closer to gaining a better understanding of one of the more painful chapters in our history, and towards ensuring that the National Parks Service, America's leading storyteller, represents all of our history. So the National Parks Conservation Association really supports this effort, as we have supported for decades efforts to diversify the sites and the stories that are told in the national park system. You know, Cyrus, Tuesday, July 25th would have been Emmett Till's 82nd birthday. And it's unfortunate that when he went down to Mississippi in the summer of 1955, his life was cut short after having an unfortunate encounter with a white woman named Carolyn Bryant at Bryant's grocery store on Wednesday, August 24th, 1955. That incident led to Till being kidnapped at gunpoint from his Uncle Mose Wright's home and being driven around the Mississippi Delta, beaten, tortured, and finally murdered, and then having his body dropped into the Tallahatchie River. It was recovered by happenstance, but then local authorities insisted that Till's body be buried immediately to cover up any evidence of a crime. They didn't want any publicity. And that's really where his mother, Mamie Till, comes into the equation, into the story, insisting that her son's body be brought back to Chicago for burial. And when the corpse was recovered in Chicago, she looked at that body and just understood that nobody would really believe what had been done to her son. And so she insisted on an open casket funeral, which was held on September 3rd, 1955, at Robert's Temple Church of God in Chicago at 40th and State Streets. And that open casket funeral drew thousands of mourners. And people saw what Mamie Till Mobley saw, which is what hatred had done to her boy. And it sparked the modern civil rights movement because a gentleman by the name of Dr. T.R.M. Howard from Mountain Bayou, Mississippi, went on a series of speaking engagements in the winter of 1955. He winds up in November at the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama, and he gives an impassioned speech about the gross miscarriage of justice that's impacted the Till family. And in the audience that evening is Rosa Parks. And about 3 days later, after Dr. Howard's speech, she refuses to give up her seat on that segregated bus in Montgomery, thus launching the Montgomery bus boycott. And, by the way, the career of an up until then not very well-known pastor by the name of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So as we talk about the significance of Emmett Till's murder, the acquittal of his killers, the open casket funeral, all those things served as catalysts that then launched the modern civil rights movement, thanks to that fateful action on December 1st, 1955 by Rosa Parks. So this is an important story. We all need to know more about that.
And I appreciate you sharing that with our audience here, Alan. So that brings us back then to what we're talking about today. So how would a national park honor Emmett's memory? I know you gave some of the history here, but how would the national park be able to do that?
Sure. So what we're looking at this point in time are plans by the Interior Department and the National Park Service to form a park basically around three hubs. In Chicago, that's Robert's Temple Church of God in Christ, again, the site of the open casket funeral. And then in Mississippi, in the Delta, there would be two contributing sites, the Tallahatchie County Courthouse, the site of the trial in September of 1955, and then Grable Landing on the Tallahatchie River, which is the body recovery site. And the National Park Service would work in close collaboration with community partners in Mississippi and in Illinois to create an interpretive array that talked to people not just about the murder of Emmett Till and the resilience and determination of his mother to seek justice for a murdered son, but about the context, about the history of civil rights in Mississippi, about the Great Migration that took African Americans north out of Mississippi and Alabama to places like Chicago and Detroit, that in fact got Mamie Carthen and her parents out of Webb, Mississippi in the 1920s up to Chicago. And so there's a large story to be told, a comprehensive story to be told, and then that also ties into the current conversations that we're having as a country about race, about white supremacy, and about the codes that govern the treatment of African Americans. And Congressman John Lewis said before he died that that Emmett Till was his George Floyd. And so this is something, in terms of the conversations we continue to have right now about racial reckoning, that is very much on the minds of many Americans. You will remember that this past year there were two movies made about Emmett Till. One, The Women of the Movement, which was a television movie, and the second one, Till, which actually ran in theaters. And then also, in April of last year, in 2022, President Biden also signed into law the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act. So our thinking is inclined to go towards Emmett Till to learn more about this story, about what happened in 1955, but also how that's impacting what's going on today.
Yeah. It's an important conversation, Alan. We're glad to have you here to be able to talk about it. How can our audience be able to learn more?
Well, folks are welcome, please, to visit npca.org/Till. That's NPCA, as in National Parks Conservation Association.org/Till. You can learn more about the campaign. You can learn more about the history of Emmett Till and his mom, Mamie Till Mobley. And visit a little bit on our website to learn how our advocacy and park protection efforts are going to positively impact this new National Park Service unit, but also how the National Park Service has for decades now been one of the leading stewards of African American history in this country. So the Emmett Till site, once it's established, will join the ranks of places like Brown versus Board of Education, Little Rock High School in Arkansas, Anniston Freedom Riders, Birmingham Civil Rights, and then the Frederick Douglass Home. All of these are African American experience sites that are currently managed by the National Park Service, which is America's leading storyteller, and home to about 40 African American experience sites. So I think people will have an opportunity to visit our website and learn more about the National Park Service and the role that they play in protecting and promoting the African American experience.
Well, Alan, really appreciate you stopping by. Again, everyone, Alan Spears is the Senior Director of Cultural Resources and Government Affairs at the National Parks Conservation Association. Alan, looking forward to speaking with you again.
It's been great to meet you, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation.
Same here. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live, part of our News You Can Use segment here at WYAD. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Then let's go make today amazing. Take care.